Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, LinkedIn. Thank you for joining me again today. If you're following me, you might be tired of seeing my face at this point. I'm having a Chris streaming day where this is number 4. Um, but
Hi,
today
girl.
But I started my day and now I am ending the streaming day with Chris, who I do the morning show updates with. And today we are coming to you to talk a little bit about what Chris does when he is new in a HubSpot portal. This is part of an ongoing series, indefinite series, if you will, on what different HubSpot pros do when they're new in HubSpot. So hello, Chris. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, happy to be here. I think this is number 3 for me today, I guess. Usually number 4, but I did some rescheduling and we had some fun in the profoundly office hours today. So always fill in the conversation where we can. So happy to be on the other side of the mic today.
It's gonna be weird. I don't know. I'm gonna be waiting for Chris's cue.
Don't let me take over. Don't let me take over the show.
Well, what I have liked starting with is asking pros why this is a difficult question to answer. I have been a little bit obsessed with it recently, which is why I started this. But why is it difficult to? Why does HubSpot not have like a checklist available on what to do when you're new in a HubSpot portal?
Because that's a terrible idea. That's why. I hate to break it to you. This might be a short-lived series, Casey, because I think anybody could go watch the episode with Trisha. And if you don't, and you think you're going to have different, unique answers as a pro, you might be there might be a trap being set for you. I think because I think this is one of those places where it's not a product. It's not solvable with the product itself,
Mhm,
right? Like if you're going into a HubSpot blind and you don't know the business, you don't know the business goals, you don't know who's using it, like you're kind of setting yourself up for failure at that point. Now, this is probably different from the days where it was just a marketing automation platform,
mhm,
but that's the gist of it, right? It's a customer platform now, and if you don't talk to whoever's asking you for help,
mhm,
um, which at this point they could hold almost any role on the customer facing side of the business, including leadership.
mhm.
If you're not asking them questions like, what are your goals? What's HubSpot supposed to be doing for you? Who's using it? If you're not finding some answer that you're going to go in and like compare what they think with what is really happening in the portal, you're you're the doctor that prescribes before you know what the pain is. Like so don't do that, people.
Don't do that. Yeah, I know you and I specifically talk a lot of times to people who are having challenges in HubSpot, let's call them. And what I think is interesting about that is the disconnect like you're talking about. So what did they expect HubSpot to do? And what is HubSpot doing is often is often different.
Yeah. So I think the only checklist you can have is asking questions about that, determining roles, the role of HubSpot from an expectations perspective, but also like start to uncover what they actually need as a business, because that's like assuming. So I guess what are the help me set this up a little bit more. Like what are the use cases that get me close to just coming into a portal with minimal information?
Well, why I'm interested to talk to you, Chris, because I've talked to Trisha, I've talked to Madeline. Um, I myself am a marketer, famously. Um, and you are an anti-marketer. Um,
Or whatever the term is for like built my whole career on marketing and then now I hate marketing. Yeah.
whatever that is, that's
Yeah.
so I know for a fact, because this happens pretty much every day on the morning show, you talk about a tool in HubSpot that I have never used. As someone who has made a career out of working in HubSpot, you are constantly showing me tools that I didn't know existed. Um, so let's use your favorite hub. Well, actually, you have 2 favorite hubs probably. I was
Okay.
think
Well,
I was gonna say Commerce Hub.
what I was getting at is I think wh- what I would say from a use case perspective, it's usually not like specific to the HubSpot as a product. It's either like, can you come clean up
Mhm,
our HubSpot,
mhm,
or can you help us get more out of HubSpot?
mhm,
Right. And so please don't take that question and answer it. Say, oh, okay, I can come in and audit your portal and show you exactly what is going to need to be cleaned up and how we're going to optimize it and whatever other, uh, let's say, falsehoods we tell ourselves when we think we're going to come in and save the day. And this is all from experience,
mhm,
like, folks. I definitely learned all these lessons the hard way of being the guy that, even from a perspective of bringing it into a new organization and having to see the mess of Salesforce, and like, if you can't understand how they operate, like, it doesn't matter what the tools are at that point. But you also can't be like, go and ask all the questions, say, all right, I'm going to come back in 3 months and here's a ready-made tool for you to start using, and then voila, the data stays clean and everybody enjoys it. Uh, so let's say that I've been asked to clean up um, a portal,
clean
right?
up.
Uh, Still asking those questions, right? Because timeline also, like, everybody's interested in how long that's going to take is another question too. And in reality, it's like, as long as it takes you to fix your processes that got us here in the first place. So to that end, I think something I'm trying to accomplish when I go in is adoption, understand adoption, like at any level, right? And if you have goals, you have an understanding of the business, um, you go to those tools, right? Those apps, those hubs that relate to what the business is trying to accomplish. Um, uh, but also, like, you're starting with who, like, who's supposed to be using it. So going to the settings and users and seeing user behaviors. Uh, this has happened live on some calls where somebody is supposed to be using HubSpot and the manager's there, and we go look at their audit. We go look at the last time they logged into HubSpot, and it was 3 months ago. It's like, okay, well, that's not true. Um, and so that'll tell you a little bit about of like who's actually using or who's actually doing stuff in the portal, um, right?
I think that user list and the last login date can also be helpful. I think I've mentioned this on some previous episodes, if not both. Um, who to talk to, because sometimes you get hired or outreached by someone who's not actually using HubSpot. And they might know some problems, but that's not always who's going to be able to tell you how things are set up, why things are set up.
Right. Yep. Trying to get as close to the front line as you can. And even like questions, this happened to me earlier this year. Like, it's so easy to make assumptions based on what they're saying about HubSpot because there's licensing that can guide them in the wrong direction. There's something is an itch that they're trying to itch. And like, there was we went through a few sessions and I had to ask, like, wait, is there any process in the business that requires HubSpot? And the answer was no. So that means HubSpot is just some data repository. It's like, okay, it's synced to QuickBooks, synced to Shopify. We can see some stuff. That's where like it doesn't matter how clean it gets if it's not a part of the process,
Mhm.
right? So starting with who's supposed to be using it, wherever you can go to kind of highlight how they're using it, right? And that's where um, probably like simply it's just perusing the settings, like sitting in there for a while. The audit log um, has been a welcome surprise recently, like in terms of which objects are being used and created, and percentage. Just there's a lot of usage statistics there that um, that you should start with, I guess, at the end of the day, right?
Mhm.
Because I don't disagree with a lot of what I've seen in the past. It's like, oh, go look at properties, and then I'll tell you like where properties are used. Go look at workflows. But again, it's so easy to go down the wrong path. Like you just it's so hard not to start solutioning right away. Like when you get to properties and you see this one's a part of all these forms, or it's not filled in for 90% of the data, it just can take you down a path that's not going to be productive or valuable for the people asking you to do this, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So
And to your point, the audit log gives you way more context than, like, just user logins, because if people are logging in, but they're not doing anything, there might be a disconnect, or maybe they just logged in because they heard someone was doing a HubSpot audit and needed to get that,
yeah, I
that
mean
data.
that's the challenge in HubSpot right now. Like it's such the word HubSpot itself is very ambiguous.
Mhm,
um, 5 different hubs plus Commerce Hub. Uh, you know, there's no way to tell if they're using Commerce Hub before getting into the portal because you don't have
mhm,
to pay for it directly. Um, so until you're in there, like even if it's a marketing person, like the issues of accidental admin comes into play. Like, is are they just using it for marketing? Like hub, like let's say in the SaaS world, or they use it as a marketing coordinator for a manufacturing company that all they do is PDFs
mhm.
and trade shows, and they're just using it to upload lead lists and CRM. Um, so I guess that takes me to another place of looking at the apps, like connected apps, right, to see if there's anything going on there. And that's where, depending on how old the portal is, a lot of people won't know the answers to those questions. They might not have ever, they probably don't know that spot exists. So, and since we're asking questions about HubSpot, it's very easy to not think about the other systems because people don't know how they're integrated. So, I think overall, trying to get a lay of the land first, right, at the same time as understanding, adoption and usage.
Mhm.
Like it's kind of you have to be very flexible about how you're approaching, and try to leave all your preconceived notions like at the door, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. I think I lean a lot of times when I'm auditing into that solution mode. And I have frameworks that I've set up before. And sometimes you get into a new portal and they have a different workaround than the workaround I've been using. Um, or maybe they have a tool that makes whatever my workaround is irrelevant. Um,
Yeah.
so I think those are some great places to start. I also think the integrations can be a quick win a lot of times if there is if they have an integration that is doing something that HubSpot can do natively. Uh, I use the meeting scheduler just because it's like the easiest. But so often I go into portals and they have Calendly or some meeting scheduler set up, and that integrates with HubSpot for a reason. Some people choose to stick with Calendly, but 50% of the time, they don't even know that HubSpot has a meeting scheduler. And so they're paying for Calendly when HubSpot's meeting scheduler would fit their needs.
Yeah. That also gets you to some better questions.
Mhm.
If you can see what other apps are in play. Good question from Trish here. Uh, but you're not gonna like my answer. I
I
just
know
said
it's
watch. I just said watch your show, Trisha. Watch your episode, and then it's the framework is questions, right? Like if you can't start there, there's no quick wins. Like one of my least favorite word phrases in relationship to HubSpot. And this is also why HubSpot can't really create anything. Like the best they can do is the awesome checklists that, you know, that team created with Kyle, last year. But even there, it's like 5, like 20 slide, like checklists about how to make your way around, HubSpot. And so many companies just as they approach HubSpot, like, um, there's just whole swaths of HubSpot that they don't even touch,
Mhm,
right? And that's where anything coming from HubSpot. So if you're outside of SaaS and looking for help like this, understand that 80% of the customer base of HubSpot is SaaS,
mhm,
right? So um, any advice we do get has to be seen through that lens sometimes, whether it's pipeline advice or just marketing tools or whatever. Uh, so that's where I would caution, especially if you're a consultant going into a new portal. Like if you've never done that vertical before, right? Definitely even more reason to take a step back and say, okay, what are you guys doing with HubSpot? Let's confirm that. So we've got settings area. Like, do we even need to get out of the settings area? I'm not sure. Because at this point, like you build a bank of understanding. You have to confirm it. You have to go back and confirm it,
mhm,
right, with the group.
mhm.
And so I would ask for your advice, like what, um, because I'm usually my approach is to force that on the people who own the HubSpot,
Mhm,
like as much as possible, to avoid any thoughts of like I'm gonna do this for you, and like you like to let them off. I don't want to let them off the hook of understanding how their HubSpot portal works,
mhm,
right? At the end of the day, because that's the best. Those are the best HubSpots when people understand what it's doing for their business, which tools they are using. Uh, like if they can't get in there and do some navigation and understand some of the stuff themselves, we're just not in a great place, with HubSpot. And a lot of the reason to pay for HubSpot and choose to use it is because it can be managed by your own teams much easier than most other systems,
mhm.
right? Um,
Just had a client this morning that they were talking about, basically I own their HubSpot right now, but she was saying, she was like, "The whole point we're paying for HubSpot is because it's easy for the team to use," but to your point, they're using me in that case as a bit of a crutch. Um, so,
so what takes you um, out of settings?
out of settings,
Yeah, like as you
well,
start exploring.
I often am fine. Well, so if we're using I like the audit log to see what's starting to get used. Personally, I like to look at workflows, which workflows are running, what are they doing. Um, I'll sort them by what's the number enrolled in the last 7 days, specifically to see which ones are like actually running. um, and sometimes you could get there from the audit log. Um, I also like to look at recently created contacts and see what happened to them on their activity cards. But that will the workflows is a different, but the contacts is definitely looking from like a net new perspective. Um, yeah, that's looking at net new. And like, I know from a marketing perspective, things I care about are email domains being configured and things like that. Are there things you're checking on, whether it's commerce, whether it's Content Hub? Are they using custom objects, things like that that you tend to look at to get.
Yeah, I think like uh, going over to the data model area,
Mhm,
right? And understanding like that team has done such a great job
mhm,
to make it visible. Like other than like it's no longer just in this long list of objects and settings.
mhm,
You can go over the data model, start to understand associations. But honestly, like I'm probably like I have some wishful thinking at this point. Like if uh, I want to go see a data model that is like understood. Um, have they created at this point? Are they using any of the object library objects? And do they have at least one association label set up? Right? Because
mhm.
I think if we're looking for a path towards quick value, like for almost everybody, like helping people get to this point where it's like if you don't understand this part, like it doesn't matter which tool you want to use in HubSpot, like you're gonna have a hard time. Maybe not getting it started right away, but keeping the data clean, getting adoption, because all of these are like windows into your process,
Mhm,
right? And so there's like this, overview. Like immediately we see number of records, and if we click on the limits tab, like I think so, this is probably the other settings counterpart where you can immediately get an overview, like how many audits have you seen before where it's like the output is just this screen,
mhm,
basically? Like, oh, you've got this many contacts and you've got this many companies, and
mhm.
like hopefully we're not charging a ton for that. I mean, right? Like,
Yeah.
because it's right here. And if that's the level of dependency that we're trying to serve, like we just got to do better than that. Like this is a click away directly on the navigation. There's some easy links to it from the settings.
Mhm,
But yeah, that reminds me of one of um, the primary points that Trisha made is the documentation.
mhm,
Uh, but from my perspective, definitely focusing on the data map um, against their processes, right? So the visual stuff, which I agree is almost never done, uh, is almost always on the list to be done,
mhm.
but somehow we don't get to it, and then we ask other people to come in and clean up our mess and integrate, do very sophisticated integrations, and that's what I've been interested to find as I work with ERP integrations and like iPaaS solutions where you have multiple people involved in implementation and they're not talking to each other. Um, they're they're solutioning first before asking all the questions, and most of them don't have nearly enough um, understanding of HubSpot. So it just creates this almost just a reactive approach to
Mhm,
everything. Um, and so I'm very empathetic to users who have had trouble. And even when you guys were saying before, like, why is there no checklist or why is there no framework for this? It's almost like just SaaS in general has just not taken responsibility in spots that they either like should have, uh, Probably most of the time in terms of training, like training
Mhm,
users, helping them with understanding. Like instead of like focusing on sales, um, like that's why we get into onboarding messes. That's why we have portals that need to be cleaned up. Uh,
mhm,
we're not doing a good job of setting expectations, and that's where if you are coming into a portal, understand that even when they tell you they purchased it for lead gen, let's say, which is like 80% of the leads that come into HubSpot, um, they cannot avoid the other 5 hubs. Like,
mhm.
they're staring at them in the navigation every day, even at free level,
Yeah,
right? So and it only takes one, like, motivated person to just go, like, set up all of Sales Hub, right? Like, "Okay, I'm gonna make a deal pipeline. This makes sense. Oh, what process could we put in our deal pipelines? Okay, I know this is a pain. So, Casey, get in here. We can start doing stuff in a system now instead of in spreadsheets. And then there's just like the double-edged sword of HubSpot is the organic like adoption that you can achieve because stuff can be super easy to start using,
mhm.
right? Um, but that's where you have like separate teams starting to use. I'm guessing that's going to be less of a problem now that seats are a thing.
Yeah,
'Cause those were as I say it out loud, it's like, yeah, those are the days where just anybody could have a seat like, have a login to HubSpot for free and be adding data into the system. So that's something I don't haven't necessarily been thinking about. Um, but again, another reason to go and check the user list, like, first, right?
yeah. So, I'm hearing the things you do. If you were put you said you were hired, they said, "Our HubSpot's a mess, we need your help." You're going into the users, into the audit log to see who's using HubSpot, what tools they're using. You'll go to the data model, you'll get a sense of which objects they're using, what associations might be set up. This also would give you a good glimpse into, like, how much time has been spent in customizing it, I would think too. Like, this is my very basic portal, like, there's basically no customization here. I think just the numbers here would tell you, "Oh, this is not heavily used," or, which is true. That would be a true statement.
Yeah.
Um, but ultimately, you're putting together a l is there anywhere else that you're checking regularly?
Um, no, not without, like,
Context.
explicit pain, like,
Yeah.
being mentioned. And that literally could be anywhere, any part of HubSpot at this point, even non-HubSpot stuff like specific apps. Uh,
Oh, the apps is the other one I missed, yeah.
yeah, like being ready to go. I mean, it was just we just did on the office hours. Somebody starts saying a word like portal, and I have to ask, like, can you define that for me, please? And it was like this app on the marketplace that syncs together HubSpot portals. And that's not where I would have gone first,
Mhm,
right? So I get like another reason to step back before you jump into HubSpot, making sure there's some level of common language, and not assuming that everybody knows what deals means. Um, if they say the word opportunity, especially now, doesn't necessarily mean they're talking about life cycle stages,
mhm.
right? They could be talking about deals. Um, so yeah, and of course that's where the documentation comes into play. So
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so just take a beat. Don't just dive right in, because that's just gonna make the problem worse at the end of the day, and nobody's gonna be happy. So
So, HubSpot setup secrets, what pros do first. Chris Carolan, ask questions.
yes, that's it. That's the framework. Ask questions. What are you doing? What do you want HubSpot to do for you?
Yeah, that was gonna be my final question is, yeah, what is the question and what do you want HubSpot to do for you? Is that
Yeah,
it? That's the
yeah.
one?
That I mean, and maybe an easier question, a better question to get a better answer. Ultimately, we have to define the role of HubSpot in the organization, right? It doesn't matter the size of the organization, because that really should speak to like the next set of questions, right? And that can be like that can be half the audit is just helping them understand that. And if they haven't answered that yet, like don't even go into HubSpot,
Mhm.
right? Um, so yeah,
As Trisha said, great perspective. Love it.
I appreciate that very much. I need to figure out how to create a course that's just like how Chris thinks about HubSpot because
Very good.
I keep hearing that they like people like how I think about HubSpot. So
I think you bring a unique perspective, which is why I'm grateful that you came on my show to tell me that I should stop doing my show and
yeah, Trisha missed that part too. I hope she watches it in the replay. I just said everybody's gonna go and watch Trisha and like, oh, I don't have anything to add. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris. Any final thoughts other than ask ask first?
Ask all the questions. No, looking forward to the morning show tomorrow.
All right. I'll see you
All right.
back here, Chris.
See you next time.
Now we get to wait.